my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. It's time for Lucasfilm to move on from the Skywalker saga, but the big question is, will they? So today we have some new information for Taika Waititi's upcoming Star Wars movie. So just to catch up to speed, Taika was originally poised to direct the 2025 Star Wars movie, and then Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron, which originally was set for 2023, was delayed indefinitely. And then in Vanity Fair and again at Star Wars Celebration, Kathleen Kennedy said that Taika's movie is going to be the next Star Wars cinematic release, and she even said she thinks it could release as soon as 2023, but as a lot of outlets pointed out, that's pretty much impossible. And now, my dear friends, in a brand new interview with The Wrap, it's pretty much solidified that we're not going to see Taika Waititi's movie for a very long time. It probably is going to be 2025. But the good news is, there's a reason for this. In his own words, he says he wants to take his time with it, piece it all together, and give the Star Wars fandom the best movie he can. And in the new interview with The Wrap, he also said he's still trying to figure out what the story is. So Kathleen Kennedy's words were very optimistic. His work in The Mandalorian Season 1 was phenomenal, and the Season 1 finale, Chapter 8 Redemption, is considered by many fans to be one of the best episodes of anything released in the Disney Star Wars era. So the lowdown is that Taika is taking his time with it. And I'm actually really glad to hear this, to hear it's not being rushed, and the priority for him is a good story. Now, Kathy also confirmed that his story is going to explore a new period set in the sequel era. Now, she did imply this means going beyond The Rise of Skywalker, and it could be sequels in the sense of being far in the future, not necessarily linked to the sequel trilogy. And a lot of fans started wondering if this meant that we're getting a continuation of the Skywalker saga. Well, a few weeks ago when Taika was asked this exact question, he said no. He said in order for Star Wars to evolve, it needs to move beyond the scope of episodes 1 to 9. But now, guys, in two new interviews, one with Stephen Colbert, he refused to say one way or another if the movie is going to deal with familiar characters from the Skywalker saga. He just would not deny it. And given Kathy's statements that we're in the sequel trilogy timeline, even if Taika's movie is original and fresh, there is still a chance he's going to use familiar characters, even if it's just sparingly. But with Screen Rants, Taika insists that he's not making episode 10, and this echoes Kathy's interview with Vanity Fair, where she said the future of Star Wars movies is not in the trilogies, but in standalones. But just how familiar tropes will be within those films are unknown, and Taika's mixed responses don't give us any clear signs if we're truly moving away from the main saga or not. I personally think it's time for Star Wars to move on. Not only for the Disney Plus shows, but for the big screen, it's time to focus on the new eras, new heroes, and of course new stories. Disney Star Wars is always at its best when it does this. Just look at The Mandalorian and Rogue One as classic examples of this done right. Now, of course, as they did, you can sprinkle in some legacy characters here and there, familiar planets, tropes, and so on, but at the end of the day, taking risks is a good thing, and prioritizing a good story. And personally, even though I'm not the biggest sequels fan, I'm not too fussed if they do something new within the sequel timeline. For all of its flaws as a trilogy, there was a lot of unexplored potential with some of those characters, and new stories with them, written and directed properly, could be a sort of salvation for that era. Now, regardless of his comments on whether he's including Skywalkers or not, Taika's been consistent on one thing, making his movie feel like nothing we've seen before, something really original, an addition to the franchise, not just repeated tropes, and that brings us on to our second update for his movie. Taika also says he is, quote, throwing everything at the wall for his Star Wars movie. Speaking with Film, the director teased that his entry into Star Wars is going to contain fresh ideas and concepts not seen before. And then he was asked if he's going to bring his unique brand of comedy to the Star Wars universe, and this is what he said. No, I'm able to kind of bring my tone. At the moment, it's just very early because I still haven't even finished the script. I'm still trying to come up with ideas, and I'm mostly kind of in that part of the process where it's still very kind of open. And when I write, I kind of write every idea I've ever had, and then start to kind of chisel it down into something, but I'm still throwing everything at the wall right now. As long as what we get is good, I think most fans are happy to wait. Although it is a shame that by the time his movie does release, there would have been a 6 or 7 year gap between Star Wars cinematic releases. As I've said in the past, as great as the TV shows are, Star Wars should not lose its theatrical identity. But Taika is a very talented man, so let's see what he comes up with. And so now, my dear friends, after the fact, a lot of information's been dropping about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the most eyebrow-raising thing of all is that originally it was going to be a movie trilogy, and this was planned long before Disney Plus. Let's take a look at the details. Obi-Wan Kenobi has wrapped on Disney+, bringing back Ewan McGregor as the titular character and telling the story between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Despite widespread criticism, the series on the whole proved to be extremely popular amongst fans, breaking viewership records, and even the finale saw higher viewership than the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 7. But despite the success, a large portion of the Star Wars fanbase has expressed this should have been a film, not only in terms of budget, but also the manner of the way the story is told. But now the project's very first writer has opened up about what Obi-Wan Kenobi was originally going to be. Not just one theatrical feature, but a whole trilogy. In an exclusive interview with The Direct, Obi-Wan Kenobi writer Stuart Beattie opened up about his role in making what was going to be the Kenobi Trilogy. Beattie revealed that he only wrote the screenplay for the original feature film and never collaborated with the series writers, while also mentioning Solo: A Star Wars Story's box office performance as the main reason that Lucasfilm did not pursue a Kenobi movie or trilogy. In his own words, he says, "I wrote the film they based the show on, so yeah, I spent like a year and a half working on it, and then, when the decision was made not to make any more spin-off films after Solo came out, I left the project and went on to other things. Joby came on and took my scripts and turned it from 2 hours into 6. So I did not work with them at all, I just got credit for the episodes because it was all my stuff." Beattie also revealed that his story for Obi-Wan Kenobi involved convincing Lucasfilm of 3 separate stories, a trilogy, the first of which ended up being the first season of what we just got. But his Kenobi trilogy was going to lead us all the way up to A New Hope, so basically covering all 20 years, and this is more evidence that they might use the other scripts to make a season 2. So this is what he said: "So when I pitched my Obi-Wan story to Lucasfilm, I said there's actually 3 stories here, because there are 3 different evolutions the character has to make in order to go from Obi-Wan to Ben, and the first one was the first movie, which was in the show, which was surrender to the will of the Force, transport your will, surrender your will, leave the kid alone. So then the second movie was thinking about where Kenobi ends up, and one of the most powerful and probably the most powerful moment in all of Obi-Wan's story is the moment where he sacrifices himself in A New Hope. But if you stop and think about it, it's a pretty sudden thing. To go from just fighting a guy to see Luke and go, I'm gonna die, you know, to me that's required forethought. That required pre-acceptance that this was gonna happen. And so that second film was basically gonna be Qui-Gon training Obi-Wan for that moment, and I think we should see that if this series does get a second season." But Beattie confirms there was a full trilogy that was going to go ahead, and he recalls how he was, quote, devastated when he found out the project was no longer going to go as planned. And this was mainly because he was a big fan of Solo: A Star Wars Story and didn't understand why the fan reception was so low. As we know, guys, a big reason Solo flopped was because of the release date. It came out just mere months after The Last Jedi, which many fans considered to be a major turning point in the franchise, one for the worse. But what do you guys think? Would you have preferred if Kenobi was a movie or maybe a movie trilogy, or do you prefer it on the small screen? Share your thoughts in the comments down below of this and everything we spoke about in today's video. If you enjoyed this one, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.